What a hell of a week. My Lord, what a hell of a week. We've been through a lot. Well, I'm on my way to the Texas Tribune Book Festival, so I won't keep you long this week. But I always enjoy going down to Austin and having great conversations with folk. This time around, I will be talking with Peniel Joseph and Mark Whitaker about their wonderful books, and I'm looking forward to the conversation. But we have to begin with the craziness of our times, and we want to begin where we always begin, and that's with an eye on what's happening in Gaza. I want to pay attention to is a U.S. backed resolution at the UN Security Council. Al Jazeera News is reporting that, in effect, the resolution aims to eliminate the possibility of a two-state solution. And that resolution consists of three basic components. One, that the U.S. will control the Gaza Strip. The U.S. will control the Gaza Strip, that they will separate Gaza from the rest of Palestine. And lastly, that the U.S. will determine the timeline when Israel will withdraw from Gaza. And, according to Al Jazeera, this is reminiscent of the British mandate around Palestine. But it's also, in my mind, to be blunt, imperialism masquerading as the peace process. That's at least a quote from the Al Jazeera article. So I want us to keep our eyes on what's happening on the ground. I know it's difficult in the midst of all of the messiness and craziness and absurdity of our times, but this is still happening. This is still happening. And there's still, of course, a humanitarian crisis on the ground that we have to keep our eyes on as well. I want to transition from that to, oh my God, the craziness of the domestic scene. Well, we ended the longest government shutdown in the history of the United States. Well, we didn't end it. 7 Democrats and 1 Republican decided to compromise with the Republican Party. They understood that there was a lot of suffering in the land. They didn't really want to shut the government down in the first place. And they understood, at least according to them, that there was no real end to this, that the Republicans were not going to cave on ACA subsidies. And so they agreed to end the shutdown on the promise that there would be a vote on those subsidies. Now, of course, this is all about politics. There are questions around Senator Schumer's leadership. There are questions around whether or not he was actively informed of what this rogue group was trying to do. I issued a commentary about this earlier in the week, and part of what I was upset about, it's not so much concern about people suffering, federal workers not getting paychecks, airlines, air traffic controllers not getting paychecks, TSA not getting paychecks, and the like. And of course, the cruelty of the Trump administration using hunger as a cudgel, right? Leveraging the starving of babies to get Democrats to do their will. And remember what they're trying to do. They were willing to starve babies. They were willing to starve babies so that they could cut health care in order to give tax cuts to billionaires. That's what they wanted to do. That's what they want to do. And now that's what they will do. I was so upset. I got upset because I'm not so much interested in the politics per se, although you have to be. I was concerned about this idea that the spin, that Democrats should just simply embrace this as a victory, that they won the messaging battle, that now they have displaced issues of crime and the like. They have the upper hand on Donald Trump with the special elections, and now they are in control of the messaging battle. And that will bode well for the midterms. I understand the politics of it all. I know the Republicans, MAGA Republicans, have to be defeated. I get that, but I can't stomach the idea of people playing politics with people's lives. Folk playing games. If this was all about messaging, you could have did it another way. You should have done it another way. I was already skeptical of the shutdown, but I was convinced by some folk in the Congress that what they were doing to healthcare constituted an existential threat to the well-being of everyday ordinary Americans. But if this was a messaging battle, I said, earlier this week, this is what I was trying to suggest. Shame on them. Shame on the Democrats. Shame on folk who believe that this was a victory politically when people are now behind on their mortgages, behind on their car notes, behind on their bills in general. They suffered for what? Political gamesmanship? The long game? In the meantime, people are struggling to make ends meet and put food on the table? I find it unconscionable. But no, here we are. Government shutdown, and what we got to keep our eye on, healthcare costs are going to go through the roof. January's coming up. Folk are going to have to figure out whether or not they're going to be able to pay healthcare, or they're going to have to drop from healthcare insurance altogether. So folk are going to get sick and not have the ability to pay for it. Hospitals, rural hospitals are going to shutter their doors. And to be honest with you, without any hyperbole, folk are going to die. So the healthcare crisis is here. Now, mind you, the ACA, to my mind, Obamacare, isn't a kind of resolution of the healthcare crisis in this country. We're going to have to get at these insurance companies. We're going to have to get at these pharmaceutical companies. We're going to have to get at the healthcare industry. You watch television all the time and you see they're just simply making profit off of sickness and death. All of these commercials aimed at treating, health issues, right? We see the industry making money hand over fist, and healthcare cost premiums are skyrocketing. We're not going to get at the heart of it with extending the subsidies because we're not addressing the fundamental problem. And the fundamental problem to me is that health care is an industry that people are making money off of. Your sickness, our sickness, death, people are profiting on. That's sick. It's sick. And, to be the richest country in the history of the world, to claim that we have the best healthcare system in the world, that's a lot. In light of this, so let's just be clear. Those Democrats in the Senate, 8 of them, and they were providing cover. Let's be clear. Some of them are retiring. Some of them aren't coming up for re-election in a long time, in a few years. They were providing cover for other senators who did not want to come out because they too wanted to end the shutdown. But all of them must, in a very substantive way, be held to account for addressing the healthcare crisis that is here. It's not coming. It's here. You asked people to sacrifice, and many people did. You asked people to muster the courage because you told them you were going to hold the line, because this mattered to their quality of life. And as they're witnessing all of this grift and greed, corruption, now they have to worry about, will they be able to take care of their babies if they get sick? Now they have to worry about how they're going to take care of their households. They've been worrying about it prior to this moment, but it's going to intensify if they get ill. If something happens, how are they going to pay hospital costs? Can they make it to the hospital if they live in small towns, right, across rural America? Government shutdown. I'm tired of people playing games with people's lives. We need to reboot our politics in so many ways. This is not about Republicans and Democrats. It's about decency. It's about what's right. It's about a just society, a morally centered society. Not in relation to dogma, but in terms of basic values, it seems to me. So here we are. We're going to have to grapple with this. Of course, this continuing resolution only takes us to January. There could be another shutdown. But I hope that we can get out of this political horse race talk. We are in a crisis. And let me just say this really quickly. I said I was going to be short, but obviously I might take it a little longer. But let's be clear. When we begin to associate what's happening politically today with what's happened in the past, I think we make a terrible mistake. Of course, the past matters. Of course, there are certain things about our contemporary days that are familiar, and the past can be informative in how we address it. But this is unprecedented in so many ways. What Trump is trying to do and his minions, what they are trying to do, what they are succeeding in doing, even amidst the circus and all the stuff that's happening around us, the trains are still running. They are fundamentally changing, undermining the basic foundations of our democracy. And if we think of politics as just simply the horse race, as who's going to win the messaging game, we lose sight of the existential threat that we face. If he was an existential threat before he was elected, they are still, Trump and his folk are still an existential threat. And we have the evidence. And we have the evidence. So I understand the politics because we still have to run elections and campaigns and the like. I understand the politics, but let's understand what really matters here. So here we are. Folk can finally get their paychecks, thank God. Folk don't have to be forced to work for free. Hopefully, I doubt it, but businesses will be lenient on federal workers. Hopefully, who've fallen behind on their bills, and hopefully those who were laid off and fired will be rehired. But we will see. But that story got bumped by the Epstein story. So we know that the Do Nothing House of Representatives have been out of session for over 50 days. Right? I mean, it's a do nothing Congress in so many ways. And one of the reasons why Mike Johnson, the speaker, refused to bring Republicans back is because he didn't want, right, to swear in the representative from Arizona who said that she would sign off on the petition, the Epstein petition, right? And now they're back open. He had to swear in, and Democrats, House Oversight Committee, I believe, released the emails, and all hell is broken loose. Trump, in some way, knew we're not saying that he did anything illegal, but there is a sense in which he understood the nature of Epstein's operation, of his debauchery. And I want to be clear that this is not just, I keep saying I want to be clear, but you get the point. This isn't just about politics here. Talking about those young girls, people call them young women, those young girls that were abused, that were trafficked. Elaine Maxwell, now in a minimum security facility, right, getting concierge level service. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Well, what we see so clearly is how justice matters differently. It is enacted differently depending upon your class position and your connections. The most vulnerable catch the most hell as ICE terrorizes communities while Ghislaine Maxwell gets concierge service in a minimum security prison. Epstein, it's a moral question. It's an ethical question. It's a question of justice with regards to the victims of Epstein. But Trump knows. He knew something. And the way he's behaving suggests that that is so. Right? I mean, if you've ever had children, when they start acting kind of funny, something is going on, and the first thing you say, "What did you do? What did you do?" And then they start hemming and hawing, as we would say back home in Mississippi. There's something about those files that Trump does not want anyone to see. So he's doing everything. Lauren Boebert, Nancy Mace, applying pressure, meeting in the Situation Room. With national security issues happen in that room, right? Trying to pressure folk, making phone calls. All of this, at least to me, suggests the behavior of someone who's trying to hide something. The question is what he's trying to hide. Now, my gut is telling me that this cuts deeper than what is being reported. I don't know what it is, but something is here, and it's not simply what it appears to be. Something else is here, and folk are shivering in their boots. And you see the folk who are getting caught up in it all. It's not just simply Donald Trump, Larry Summers of Harvard, Ken Starr, the moralist down at Baylor, former president of Baylor, and those of us who remember the Clinton years. Even Steve Bannon. The Guardian is reporting that Epstein was actually advising Steve Bannon in his effort to get Trump elected. Something is going on here. Something is going on here. Now, I want to be clear. The Epstein story matters because it takes us to the heart of the moral rot, right, of the folks who are leading this country, right? It shows us that that character has been suspended as a requisite, right, requirement to take public office in this country. It gives us a sense of how deeply, deeply um, compromised America actually is. But we also got to keep track of what's happening on the ground with everyday ordinary people. So we can do two things at once. We can keep track of Epstein, and we have to keep track of escalating healthcare costs. We have to keep track of what's happening in the labor market. We have to keep track of what's happening with wages. We have to keep track of what ICE is doing. Right? I mean, some of us watch Game of Thrones. We can keep track of multiple plots, right? Multiple plot lines. So the dramatic nature of the Epstein story can suck up all the oxygen, but remember, all the trains are still running. Russell Vought is still doing what Russell Vought in OMB, Office of Management and Budget. He's still doing what he's doing. They're still doing what they're doing with the Department of Education. They're still doing what they did, right? Taking this effort, this ongoing effort to shrink, to break the federal bureaucracy. They're still doing it. They're still gerrymandering, trying to gerrymander districts, even as they sue California after Prop 50. They're still trying to rig the terms of the midterms. So we can follow the Epstein story, and we have to, because again, it takes us to the moral rot at the heart of the country. And for Trump and the Republicans, this is important because their MAGA base wants to see it. The MAGA base many of them were motivated by the so-called conspiracy around billionaires and those in the shadows who ran this pedophilia ring, right? They were motivated from the beginning. That's how many of them came to Trumpism. And Trump promised that he was going to make it all explicit, bring it all into the light. And now look, he's saying it's just a hoax. We can pay attention to that story. But all hell is breaking loose around it. The Democrats can get some kind of political traction with this. Donald Trump is at his weakest moment in his second term right now. And I can understand Democrats smelling political blood, but there's something there that we have to be mindful that there's something else happening in the country, and everyday ordinary people are bearing the brunt of it. Everyday ordinary people are bearing the brunt of it. Well, I've gone on much longer than I thought I would. I want to end, hey, pay attention. He sicked the Justice Department on Eric Swalwell. The same thing, mortgage fraud, tax fraud, same thing. Letitia James, same thing, Lisa Cook. Wasn't the guy just recently called out for asking folk to look into FHA loans? Said that he didn't, he was just using public records, but it looked like he was deploying folk within the agency. It's amazing, the level of corruption that people are willing to just simply abide. But I want to end with this story because I still think it's a white nationalist project, even with all of this stuff swirling around our heads. There's a small story about a Black Soldiers Memorial in the Netherlands around Julius Morris, a private soldier who died April of 1945. They removed it. They took it out. You can't even acknowledge that. They don't even want you to acknowledge that. It's fascinating. Sick. Well, I want you to take a look and read that story and see what I mean about the levels of work that's happening. There's a lot happening with regards to the Epstein story, and we want to keep track of it. They're still doing what they're doing. They're still doing what they're doing. So let's buckle up. because I don't know if this is going to get any easier. And we aren't even in a year yet. And here we are. Here we are. Lord, have his mercy. Pay attention. Keep your eyes wide open and refuse to consent to all of this. Refuse to consent to all of this. And, as I say all the time, as you move about, introduce a little love into this loved one's life.